Good afternoon, everyone, again. Thank you, Pastor Murray, for talking about burnout, how it's such a real thing. And I just want to add one thing to that one way to counteract burnout is exercise. And what are we doing on Wednesday at 5 p.m.? Oh, that might help. No, but actually, really, exercise does help for burnout. It really does. It really, really does. Whether it be ministry or whether it be just working. Getting exercise helps you relieve stress. It helps you just feel better. And so that was a shameless plug and actual real advice that exercise does a lot. Anyway, so moving on from that. So we move on to offering. And this is the week, this is the month, this is the last week of our theme of exalting Christ in ministry. And so if we could go to, actually not yet. I appreciate what Ezra was saying, how he's talking about slave. And he just said slave, and then he stops. He says slave. And then he goes through all these parts in the Bible where it talks about being a slave. And how there's a verse I used last week when I gave my sermon about how those who want to be first must first become a slave. You must first be a servant. And that's absolutely true. You have to be willing to be humble. You have to be willing to submit and to go down if you want to do something good. If you want to be able to exalt Christ. You can't go in with this notion of, oh, I want my face to be seen. But I've already said all that. And so let's go to 1 Corinthians 12, verses 4 up till 6. And I used this verse last week too. There are different kinds of gifts, but the same Spirit distributes them. There are different kinds of service, but the same Lord. There are different kinds of working, but in all of them and in everyone, it is the same God at work. And so for everyone here, I'm positive everyone here who has an apartment or has a spouse or has a home that they need to take care of, most people here, I'm sure, work in some manner or another. And most people have to work 40 hours a week or more to be able to support that. Now, some people's work is a little more physical than others. Some people have to stand for 8 hours a day, and that's hard. Some people have to walk around just all day up hills, down hills, all day. That's hard. Some people have to do extremely mentally strenuous work where you just have to do a bunch of reading. You have to do a lot of studying all day. That gets exhausting. All of that does get tiring. And so there are times, I'm not blaming you, but there are times where you just don't want to do ministry. There are times where it's like you're tired. And it's not from a lack of burnout, where it's like you're physically tired, and you need that rest that Pastor Bernie was talking about, that it says in the Bible that Elijah needed. We just need rest. There are times. And I just love that at the very end of the verse that Ezra was using, but for the sake of this, I'll use Romans 2, verse 11, where it says, for God does not show favoritism. He doesn't show favorites. And in the verse I just used in 2 Corinthians, it shows that all ministry, all work, comes from the same place. Because it's not our ministry, it is impossible for there to be favorites. I mean, I guess there is a favorite. It's Jesus. He's the favorite. And so everything we're doing points to him. And so whatever ministry we do, whatever way we're exalting Christ, it should always point to him. So what I'm getting at is that at this time, the most valuable thing we have to give is time. As humans, that's the most valuable thing we have, is time, is our finite amount of time that we have on this earth. And we have that as a physical representation as money. For 40 hours a week, we have so much money, and that is our time. And so when we give, giving is a form of ministry. Because in America especially, we like to have this, we've fostered this culture of, I just like to see immediate results. I just need to see something. I need to see some kind of profit. I need to see some fruits from everything I'm just trying to reap. I just need to see something. However, when we give to a church, when we give to NewLife, it's never that instant. It's like, oh, here's $50. Instantly, I know that's going to do this. No, it doesn't always look like that. Sometimes we just have it sitting in our bank account, just waiting for when we need to use it. But it is still ministry, giving, because we don't know where that's going to go. We don't know if we're going to use that to help victims for some natural disaster. We don't know if that's going to be used to pay Pastor Burmey's salary, to be able to support a home where I live, to be able to support me. And so it goes very far. And that is ministry. Ministry is not always feeding the homeless, which you should do at the end of August, the very last day. Ministry is not always staying up late with someone and talking. Sometimes it is. Sometimes all you have in your day, all you have, because 40, 50 hours a week, you don't have much time at the end of the day. You are tired from that. You don't want to deal with that mess of having to do something else. Sometimes you're just tired. That's okay. We need our rest. But ministry looks completely different for each person. And the best part is that God shows no favorites. And that all ministry comes from the same God. And it means all the same to Him. And so when we give, this is an act of worship and an act of ministry. And God looks upon this and He smiles. He appreciates you giving your time to Him, offering your time. So when you give, just know that what you're doing is an act of ministry. You're exalting Christ. You're saying, God, you are at the top of my list. I'm giving my time, my life to you in this offering. And I give it willingly and joyfully. So let's bring up the offering.